Welcome everybody to season 5 of the Multi-Battle Conference. As usual, we are the Amoonguss Burnouts. I am Matt. This is
Anthony, reigning champs.
indeed season 4 champions. We're here to defend our title, but first, we're here to analyze all of these terrible drafts that you people made, including us. We'll shit on our own draft from time to time. No, we're not. It's the best. Anyway, so just like last season, season 4, we did a series of interviews with as many teams as we could get. We analyzed their draft. We gave them grades on a few different pieces of criteria that we were looking for in a good draft, and gave them a list of pros and cons, and did a little. We're doing little interviews along with that to kind of ask the teams about their draft and about the draft process, about what they wanted, about the strengths and weaknesses of everything, and all of that. So this is kind of our intro to season 5. We're going to be pumping out these analysis videos over the next week or so. So just to start off, we're going to sort of go. We're going to take a bit of a deeper dive into how we are grading everybody's drafts. And of course, at the end of this whole interview series, we're going to be doing our week 0 power rankings before the first week begins. So be on the lookout for that. After we finish pumping out all of those interview videos. To start things off, we're going to go into the details of what exactly we're looking for and how we are grading everybody's drafts. There are 4 things we're grading you on, and they are your draft order, your team's synergy, your team's threat level, and your versatility. And then we finish that off with an overall draft grade afterwards. So let's start from the top. You wanna tell us about what we're looking for in the draft order?
So the first thing that we're looking for as far as draft is concerned is where you spent your picks and did you use your picks with good value. So like in your first pick, first round, did you go for something that's very highly sought after, that is something that a lot of people are going to typically want to go after? Or did you go after something that maybe you could have waited on and you probably went a little too early for? Did you, in the middle picks, did you fill out and get really good role players in, those really rounds 5 through 8 is where you see a lot of the stuff like good trick room users, good trick room sweepers? Did you get the ones that really synergize with your team well enough? Or were you picking out from the leftovers because you waited too long to take some of those things? We're going to basically grade you hard on whether or not it looked like you got sniped throughout the draft, because a lot of these teams you could tell there were some that it was like, wow, you could tell they got everything they wanted because everything they have is just synergizing so well and so perfectly. And other teams, it's like, oh yeah, they got sniped a few times because they're over here picking budget X Pokemon, because they couldn't get this one. So, we're going to knock you for that. And ultimately, also how you budget your Pokemon as well. How you spend these points, and did you go too hard in one direction, with a lot of S tiers, a lot of A tiers, and then you realize later that you're going to have to fill in with a lot of C's and D's, and you really can't pick a lot of the good filler Pokemon that you have. And if you did go into the more budget route, did you pick up some of the more sought after Pokemon in those tiers? Like, you could have had no S tiers and went, all A tiers, but did you pick up those A and B tiers that are highly sought after, or were you still left picking from the leftovers? And so all those things are really things that we're going to be looking at as far as your draft grade is concerned. It shows the difference between a team that has been drafting for a while, who's very new or very experienced in these draft types formats, and the difference between somebody who maybe not be so accustomed to like a budgeting style draft where you have to allocate your points around to certain roles and understand like how valued certain roles are in a draft format. So uh, in my opinion, probably one of the more underrated metrics. everybody wants to look at threat level, everybody wants to look at versatility and all those things, but like, how did you get those in the first place, and did you use your draft position to the best possibility you can?
Yeah, I also want to point out that last season when we were grading people on how they drafted, we tended to take some points off for more top-heavy drafts, which is something we're kind of correcting for this time. As you can see on the screen here, there's a bunch of teams that have some of those lower D and E tier Pokemon. They're going to be those ones over on the right hand side that are colored in the light and dark blue. So not everyone has them. Most teams did dip into one or both of those tiers, but we definitely saw some more top heavy teams that we criticized a lot for that, making it not only making it into playoffs but making some deep runs as well. So it's not so clear to us anymore that top heaviness is a bad thing. So there is a difference between having a top heavy draft and not allocating your points correctly. Maybe being a little bit short sighted with your points.
Yeah.
You can still kind of play that long game, look pretty far ahead, and still end up with a draft that's maybe a little bit more top heavy. So jumping into the next three pieces of criteria, they were the main components of our team building section from our draft guide, if you guys happen to see that. So we're not going to go into huge detail with those because we already kind of talked about them. But the first one being synergy. One of the big things we're looking for as far as your synergy goes is how well your typings work together. Common cores that we're looking for are like the classic Fire, Water, Grass core, the Dragon, Fairy, Steel core, and even the Fighting, Psychic, Dark core, which we're pretty partial to. Something like you can see up here the Mad Alcinas. They've got that Kartana, Blaziken, Swampert. We think that's a really good Fire, Water, Grass core. That's gonna do increase their synergy grade a lot. We got the Tapu Fini and the Victini and Serena on the Jurors team. We think that's a great combination too, especially with the Raichu. So stuff like that is what we're kind of looking for.
Reggie Easer's got all three
in 2 picks, or all three of the
cores.
Yeah, that's right. They got the first core of Fire, Water, Grass in 2 picks, and then they got the rest with the remaining 6. We'll talk about that. That's going to be an interesting one to. There's more points to be made on that one. But it'll be an interesting one to talk about. But it's impressive that they were able to do that, frankly. In any case, that's what we're looking for on typings. Synergy can also be big common combos like. We see a lot of beat up stuff sometimes. Going back to the Geezers, we see that Cobalion and the Alolan Persian, stuff like that's gonna do well for your synergy grade. We see maybe the on the Rainbow Raiders team, we see that Colossal with the Dragonite and the Inteleon. Inteleon having Aqua Jet and Dragonite having Inner Focus and Surf. Both of those being good steam engine combos, stuff like that is gonna increase your synergy grade and frankly your threat level, which we'll get to. You'll also notice that some of these sort of bleed into each other. And then finally, just Pokemon that benefit from what the other Pokemon on the team can do, especially like things like support and speed control. Do you have the right things to function in Tailwind if you have a couple of really good Tailwind users? Do you have a solid Trick Room mode to go with that big sweeper that you have, the slow kind of sweeper that you drafted? Do you have something that is threatening enough to justify putting redirection next to it? Things like that. So those are some big components of what we're looking for with synergy. Common combinations, typing synergy, and Pokemon that just benefit from one another's support and speed control.
The next one is like we talked about in our other draft guide, the threat level. Um, this goes a little bit beyond just having your base stats high. We always talk about that. When we talk about threat level, it's your ability to take KOs very quickly, whether that be with an ability like we talked about with Justified or Beat Up, or just having like a fake tiers, special attack, fast special attacker type synergy going on, something that your opponent needs to constantly respect. But also doesn't just go to KO potential either, and is also something like an Amoonguss or a Milotic with a coil, things like of that nature that can kind of hinder your opponent and kind of put them on the back burner and not be able to put down so much offense and be somewhat oppressive in like status and stuff like that. So that also counts a lot for your particular threat level, because as we saw last year or last season from the Sky Pillars, they were able to use that Milotic as a win condition in so many different scenarios, and it basically just had to sit out there and launch a couple hypnosises out, and it let the other things next to it do what it needed to do. So, particularly strong win conditions like that, we're starting to see some Paris Trap and other things like that that definitely go into threat level. Also, Pokemon that on a week to week basis, your opponent are going to have to constantly check for it. Stuff like the Steam Engine things, like we were talking about. Blaziken with Swords Dance when Speed Boost, that can be extremely threatening next to a two Follow Me users like the Matt Alcinas have. You know, there's just so many different things. The Mudkips have the Rabombi with the Glacier, and they could do a speed swap. All these things are little combos that your opponent has to constantly keep in check. Otherwise, you just get swept by these little things. Um, and I think one of the reasons why people oftentimes uh, underestimate threat level is because sometimes having two of these three, the synergy and the versatility, aren't enough to win the game. A lot of the times you need something, especially in this timer type format or this low timer format where we're constantly being brought to time. You want something to be able to pick KOs up on your opponent right away, so that way you're not having to rely so much on the timer running out and you just happen to have more Pokemon than they do. So we saw we've seen so far in this league during Generation 8 with this timer restriction that timer is not a consistent way to win. It may be a little bit undeveloped and underdiscovered, but as of right now, nobody has really found a way to consistently do it. So because of that, threat level is that much more important because you want to be able to pick up KOs and pick them up quickly.
For sure, yeah. I think I think a good way to think about threat level is just like uh, which Pokemon or which combinations of Pokemon on your draft demand attention from your opponents during prep.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to think about it. Moving on from threat level, the the last bit we are grading everybody on is versatility. This is our the only new piece of criteria that we're using. The last time we had the draft order, we had synergy, and we graded on threat level as well. Versatility felt like it was sort of left out, and it's a really it's a significant enough factor in draft leagues that it really deserves to be here. So
Shout out to Ryan Sableye VGC who brought this to our attention.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, when we had our interview with him last season, he was making the case that I think he was saying that the versatility of their team kind of added to the threat level. I think, which kind of made sense to me, but I think versatility deserves to be its own thing.
Yes, definitely. It's an important metric.
Yeah, I think versatility more than any of these other things is responsible for us winning last time. In any case, versatility essentially boils down to how many game plan options do you have, how many different things can your draft do, and how easy is it for you to adapt to playing against a variety of different kinds of teams. a lot of this, a lot of what increases your versatility is having like deep move pools. You have a lot of different type coverage. You have a good spread of different types across your draft. You have a decent split of physical and special Pokemon. You have a variety in different kinds of win conditions. I think one of the most interesting ones there is probably the Patrats with that hyper offense mode up top, and then kind of a Perish Trap mode in the with their B and C tier picks. I don't know if we've ever really had a Perish Trap mode in this league, so that one's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Another one we talked about previously was the seniors with their Porygon Z and Corviknight last season, which they actually actually have both of those again. It's great to have different kinds of win conditions like that, because it's not enough to just stop that big sweeper in Porygon Z. You also have to keep the Corviknight from setting up and just roosting to stay alive and body pressing everything, right? So demanding your having things that demand different kinds of strategies and different kinds of attention from your opponents is a big part of versatility. Having Pokemon that can switch roles really well and do multiple things well is really important. Like I said, that was probably the number one reason that we won last season, because we had that Grimmsnarl, we had that Blastoise, we had that Volcarona. They could all be run very different ways. They're all very good at support, and they're all very good at offense. Even if one of those doesn't really seem like it's going to be good at one of those things, nobody really expected us to use offensive Grimmsnarl, even though we did it several times and it worked really well. You might not think that Volcarona is that great of a support Pokemon, but if you build it bulky enough and you maybe you give it a Charty Berry, you put Rage Powder or a Tailwind on it, it's it's gonna be pretty good. So again, those are just examples. There's a lot of Pokemon that can do a lot of different things. There's plenty of examples of that on this draft. I think just to point out a few, Celesteela is really interesting with Dynamax now. It can be a really good max Pokemon. Weakness policy, get some airstreams up, even though it's not the fastest thing. It can be if you're airstreaming a bunch. Something like Latios and Latias can be pretty offensive. They can even set up with Calm Mind, or they can be good support with like Tailwind and Helping Hand, screens, stuff like that. So just a few examples of stuff that's on here that can kind of switch between different roles.
Azumarill is also one that I really like.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's most of what I think of it for is either offense or a secondary thing would be like helping with Perish Trap, which the Ally Switch spammers don't really seem to have. But I guess
I just love Sap Sipper stuff that you can do with it. I believe the Tangela too. We don't have to go into this now. I believe it's like a couple speed points faster than the Azumarill, so you can boost with Sap Sipper and stuff like that. I mean,
or you can at least build it that way.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So stuff like that. That's gonna. That's one of the most important things, I think, in any kind of draft league, to be honest. So that's the kind of stuff we're gonna be looking for in that versatility grade. And then after that, we're going to combine the grades from all of those things into one single overall draft grade for each team. We're going to try to get as many teams as we can on for interviews. So stay tuned for our interviews, and stay tuned next weekend as well, after all of our interviews are done, for that Week 0 Power Rankings video. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and if you haven't signed up yet, we're uploading these videos as we kind of do them. And the interviews as well and all that.
Yeah.
So if you haven't signed up yet, do so. And we're going to be doing these throughout the week. We'd love to get as many teams as possible on, with all the members if possible, everything. We want it all. So definitely look forward to doing this. It's always fun to analyze these drafts. It's one of the best parts of the season, honestly. So, all right.
Yep. Good luck to everybody this season, and we look forward to talking to you guys in these interviews. Peace.